Welcome to the Economist Word Spotlight. Have you ever been reading a news article, especially, one about geopolitics, and stumbled over a single word, a word that just felt absolutely critical to understanding the underlying story, maybe one that seemed to carry an immense amount of weight, almost shifting the entire implication of a complex event?
Oh, absolutely. It's truly fascinating, isn't it? In the world of international relations, where every nuance can turn the tide. Precise language isn't just about good writing. It's fundamental, really fundamental to accurate analysis. A perfectly chosen word can illuminate an entire hidden agenda or subtly reveal a major shift in power dynamics, much more than a long paragraph sometimes.
That's exactly why we're here today. Our goal in this spotlight is to unlock the power of specific vocabulary, words used in a recent Economist article. We're going to really dig into the exact phrasing, understand the definitions in context, and then sort of unpack why these words were chosen and what they really tell us about the situation. We want to give you that shortcut to being incredibly well-informed.
Yeah, it's about developing an eye for those seemingly small linguistic choices. Choices that actually carry enormous significance, allowing you to read, beyond the surface.
Couldn't agree more. And the article we're dissecting today, the one providing all these linguistic gems, it's titled Donald Trump's Gift to Vladimir Putin. We'll be looking at each key word in its original sentence, breaking down its definition, usage, and specific meaning within the article's context, plus some memorable insights along the way. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay. The first phrase that grabs your attention comes from the very opening lines. From the moment he stepped off his plane onto the red-carpeted tarmac, Vladimir Putin's trip to Alaska was a triumph. That word tarmac, it immediately sets a powerful scene, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yes. While tarmac fundamentally refers to, the paved area of an airport where aircraft park or load, the article isn't just stating a fact about where Putin landed, it's chosen to highlight that very specific spot, the highly visible spot where official ceremonies, greetings, that sort of thing, took place. Think of it less as simply the ground, and maybe more as a stage. You might say, the pop star greeted fans from the tarmac before boarding her private jet. Same idea, different context.
Right, so it's the specific ground that becomes a stage for an event. What's it typically contrasted with in an airport setting, just functionally?
Well, functionally, you'd distinguish it from the runway, obviously, which is for takeoffs and landings, or the terminal, the passenger building. But the key here isn't its physical opposite. It's more about its elevation from just a paved surface to a point of, geopolitical spectacle.
And the article nails that, doesn't it? It suggests using tarmac here isn't routine. It sets a dramatic scene. Putin isn't just arriving. He's stepping onto a red carpet. At a U.S. military base, no less, transforming what could be a mundane arrival into this highly symbolic, almost theatrical event, like the opening shot of a political drama.
Precisely. It implies a deliberate orchestration, framing Putin's arrival not as a mere logistical step, but as a moment designed for maximum public impact, a visual.
Okay, so from that dramatic entrance, the article immediately shifts to Putin's new status. Our next word really captures this dramatic transformation. The encounter at the Elmendorf-Richardson military base in Anchorage transformed Mr. Putin from a pariah of the West into an honored guest on American soil. Wow, talk about a complete reversal.
Indeed. A pariah. It means an outcast. Someone completely rejected or ostracized by a group, a society, a community. In this context, it starkly refers to how Putin had been isolated, unwelcomed by Western countries since the Ukraine invasion. He was truly persona non grata. Imagine, after the scandal, he became a pariah in political circles with basically no one willing to associate with him. That's the feeling.
So if pariah means utter rejection, total outcast.
Yeah.
How does the article then frame his new status using the opposite idea?
Well, the opposite would be someone who is accepted, respected, maybe even celebrated within a group, like an insider or perhaps even a celebrity in that specific circle. For instance, you might say, she quickly became a political insider with strong connections, a far cry from her initial outsider status.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate political glow-up, isn't it? From a globally shunned pariah to VIP status. That one word truly spotlights the seismic shift in Putin's image, at least within this specific context described. The article paints a picture of a diplomatic cold shoulder turning into a full-on red carpet welcome.
It emphasizes the abruptness, the almost unbelievable reversal of his international standing. And it highlights just how significant this particular meeting was perceived to be by the author.
We've seen how the article frames Putin's arrival and his transformed status. But the piece doesn't just focus on Putin. It also highlights anxieties about what might happen next, especially for Ukraine. This brings us to our next word. It is a sign of the times that such failure may be a relief for Ukrainian and European leaders who feel that Mr. Trump would yield to Mr. Putin's demands to neuter Ukraine. Neuter. That sounds quite strong, almost violent in that sentence.
It is, and I think deliberately so. As a verb, in this context, neuter means to make something ineffective, powerless, harmless, essentially stripping it of its strength or influence. Now, obviously, its origin comes from making an animal infertile, but here it's used powerfully, metaphorically. It refers to the fear that Trump might agree to terms that would severely weaken Ukraine's military or political power, rendering it unable to defend itself or, act independently. Consider this sentence. The new law could effectively neuter the independence of the judiciary, leaving it unable to challenge executive decisions.
Okay, so it's about taking away power or agency, making something ineffective. The implication being that a peace deal structured like that could actually leave Ukraine more vulnerable. What's the direct opposite of neutering something then?
The opposite would be to empower, or perhaps strengthen, to give more power, ability, or authority, for example. The reforms were designed to empower local governments, giving them greater control over local services.
This word really communicates a deep, almost chilling anxiety for Ukrainian and European leaders, doesn't it? The article suggests they feared Trump might hand Ukraine a peace that's actually a power cut, like giving someone a shield without a sword and calling it a deal. It's about a proposed solution that could profoundly undermine Ukraine's very capacity to assert its sovereignty.
Exactly. It conveys the fear that such an agreement wouldn't bring genuine security, but rather a kind of strategic disarming, leaving Ukraine exposed despite maybe a superficial truce.
Now let's turn our attention back to that dramatic meeting itself. The description continues. Their planes parked close to each other. The two men stepped out more or less simultaneously, shook hands warmly, and walked towards a Rostrum as a B-2 bomber, escorted by 4 F-35 fighters, passed overhead. The word Rostrum immediately brings to mind a very specific kind of formal public setting.
It certainly does. A rostrum is basically a raised platform. It's used for public speaking, ceremonies, performances, especially by officials or leaders. In this context, it's the formal stage where Trump and Putin made their joint appearance. You might see, she stepped up to the rostrum to deliver her acceptance speech to thunderous applause. It instantly signals a formal, highly publicized event designed for an audience.
So it's not just a platform, it's a platform for showmanship, for a deliberate public display.
Exactly. You could say its functional opposite might be the audience floor or maybe the pit. Areas where listeners or viewers stand, contrasting with the elevated central position of a speaker, for example. The crowd gathered on the floor below the rostrum, eagerly awaiting the announcement.
The article's analysis of Rostrum really drives this home, doesn't it? Suggesting it adds theatrical flair. Trump and Putin aren't just meeting, they're starring in a political spectacle, complete with military flyovers and synchronized choreography. It turns a crucial diplomatic exchange into a grand public performance, really intended for global consumption.
It highlights that element of careful stage management, transforming a diplomatic event into a staged production with a clear visual message for the world to witness.
And speaking of that grand spectacle, the very same sentence gives us our next word. As a B-2 bomber, escorted by 4 F-35 fighters, passed overhead. Escorted, in this context, takes on a very specific, almost cinematic meaning with military aircraft involved.
It does. Escorted means to accompany someone or something, often for protection or ceremony or status display. Here, the B-2 stealth bomber, America's most advanced strategic aircraft, is being accompanied by 4 F-35 fighters. It's cutting-edge combat jets. Now, this isn't just a casual flyby, it's a deliberate visual statement, both symbolism and formidable security. Think of it like this. The president was escorted by a motorcade of security officers throughout the event, signifying his importance and protection.
So it's about protection, yes, but maybe even more so about a very deliberate display of power and prestige, especially with these high-profile military assets.
Yeah.
What's the contrast to being escorted?
The opposite would be to abandon or perhaps leave unaccompanied, to proceed without protection or a ceremonial presence, for example. The convoy was left unescorted in the danger zone, a grave oversight.
Yeah, the article's use of escorted injects real cinematic drama into the scene. It suggests those jets weren't just flying by, they were part of a meticulously choreographed power display, like VIP bodyguards in the sky for this momentous occasion. It underscores the perceived importance and scale of the event, almost turning it into a high-stakes military diplomatic parade.
It really emphasizes the implied message, that message of national strength and readiness that such a flyover would convey, making the meeting itself feel even more monumental and consequential.
Okay, now for a word that contrasts sharply with the honors given to Putin. The honors for Mr. Putin were in sharp contrast to the public humiliation that Mr. Trump and his advisors inflicted on Mr. Zelensky during his visit to the White House earlier this year. Inflicted. That carries a very heavy, almost condemnatory weight in that sentence.
It certainly does. Inflicted means to cause someone to suffer something unpleasant or harmful, and usually intentionally. So in this context, it refers to Trump and his team deliberately subjecting Zelensky to public embarrassment or disrespect. This wasn't presented as an accident or an oversight. It was framed as a purposeful act designed to diminish his standing. For instance, the harsh punishment was inflicted without a fair trial, raising questions of injustice.
Right, so it's not just a bad outcome. It's framed as a deliberate act of causing harm, and in this case, public humiliation. What would be the direct opposite of inflicting something harmful like that?
Well, the opposite in a positive sense would be to grant or perhaps bestow, to give something beneficial or honorable. For instance, the king bestowed honors on the brave soldier for his courage and loyalty.
This word really paints Trump's actions, or rather the article's interpretation of them, as harsh and calculated. The analysis highlights that it's like giving Zelensky a diplomatic slap in the face while simultaneously rolling out the red carpet for Putin. It sets up a stark comparison of differential treatment between two major figures, showing a perceived bias.
It conveys the calculated nature of the disrespect, as portrayed in the article, making it clear this wasn't an oversight, but a deliberate act designed to diminish Zelensky's standing in a very public way.
Our next word also touches on Trump's approach, but with a different, maybe more puzzling nuance. Since then, relations with Ukraine have improved, but Mr. Trump has often been quick to blame it for being invaded, and he has proved strangely indulgent with Mr. Putin. Strangely indulgent. That's quite the descriptor there, isn't it?
It truly is. Indulgent means being overly lenient, forgiving, or permissive, often when firmness or strictness might be expected. Here, it refers to the article's portrayal of Trump's surprisingly soft and tolerant attitude toward Putin, even when circumstances, like the invasion of Ukraine, would typically call for a much firmer stance from a U.S. leader. A classic example. She's too indulgent with her children, letting them do whatever they want without consequence.
Okay, so it implies a lack of necessary firmness, or even a perceived favoritism, a kind of softness where you'd expect hardness. What would be the characteristic that directly contrasts with being indulgent?
The opposite would be strict, or perhaps disciplinary, being firm and demanding, especially in maintaining standards or rules. For instance, the coach was very strict with his team, insisting on discipline and hard work.
The article's analysis here truly underscores what it presents as Trump's puzzling favoritism. Being tough on allies like Ukraine, but strangely soft on adversaries like Putin, according to the piece. It's like scolding your friend for getting robbed while seemingly smiling at the robber. A perceived inconsistent approach to international diplomacy that left many observers scratching their heads.
It emphasizes the perceived double standard in his foreign policy, as interpreted by the author, where key allies face criticism while a geopolitical adversary receives what's presented as unwarranted leniency.
We're almost through our list. The next word describes a behavior that many observers found puzzling and potentially counterproductive during negotiations. Mr. Trump told Fox you have to weave and bob to reach deals, but his constant shuffling in the run-up to the summit suggests indecision and frustration with a Russian leader who will not respond to his entreaties. Shuffling. In this context, it isn't about cards or feet, is it?
Not at all, no. In this particular context, shuffling means changing decisions, positions, or behaviors repeatedly, and without clear direction. It suggests hesitation, maybe a lack of confidence, or an inability to commit, a kind of political zigzagging rather than firm, purposeful progress. You might say the company's constant shuffling of its executive team has created widespread confusion and undermined morale.
So it paints a picture of someone who isn't clear or decisive, perhaps floundering a bit. What would be the characteristic that directly opposes this shuffling?
The opposite would definitely be decisiveness or resolve, taking clear, firm, and confident actions, for instance. Her decisiveness helped the team stay on track during the crisis, cutting through all the uncertainty.
The article's analysis perfectly captures this, doesn't it? It suggests shuffling makes Trump appear like a deal-maker who can't quite decide which card to play, dodging, ducking, circling, without actually landing a strategic punch. It implies a lack of strategic coherence and maybe an inability to force a clear outcome, leading to frustration.
It conveys a sense of instability and uncertainty in his approach, as seen by the author, highlighting a perceived weakness in his diplomatic strategy when faced with a resistant counterpart like Putin.
Okay, finally, we come to a word that Putin himself used, one which carries a chilling undertone when you consider his actual intentions, according to the article's interpretation. Yet Mr. Putin insisted that we need to eliminate all the primary causes of that conflict. Eliminate. It sounds straightforward on the surface, but the article implies it takes on a much darker meaning here.
It absolutely does. Eliminate means to completely remove or get rid of something, often something seen as undesirable or problematic. But as the article notes, in Putin's usage, the term implies removing the so-called causes of the war, which, according to his logic as presented, includes Ukraine's very independence and aspirations. Consider the sentence. The new policy aims to eliminate corruption in the public sector, root and branch. Straightforward removal.
Right, so it's about getting rid of something. But the implication of what he wants to get rid of is deeply problematic. What's the direct opposite of eliminating something?
Well, the opposite would be to preserve or maybe maintain, to keep something intact, protect it, or continue supporting it. For example, the agreement is designed to preserve national sovereignty and cultural heritage, not erode it.
And this is where eliminate sounds neutral on its face, but becomes truly chilling in this context. The article states that when you realize what Putin actually wants, whole country's independence, its very existence as a sovereign nation, it becomes clear it's diplomacy dressed up in demolition language. It transforms a seemingly benign word into a term that suggests profound and destructive intent.
It truly exposes the underlying aggressive agenda, as interpreted by the piece, revealing how a seemingly innocuous term can mask a much more dangerous objective. It forces us, the readers, to question the true meaning and implications behind such pronouncements, makes us look for the real motive.
And that wraps up our word spotlight on Donald Trump's gift to Vladimir Putin. Quite a journey through just a few key words. What stands out to you from this linguistic exploration we've taken?
What's truly fascinating, I think, is how these words, which we might use every day without much thought, how they become incredibly precise and revealing tools in the hands of expert political analysts like those at The Economist. They're not just descriptors, they're signposts. They indicate subtle shifts in power dynamics, hint at hidden motives. And they really lay bare the true stakes involved in global events. Understanding these nuanced choices empowers you, our listener, to read between the lines, to see beyond the headlines and truly grasp the full implications of what's being reported.
It's incredible how a single word choice can reveal hidden agendas, political maneuvers, or deeply held beliefs within an article, isn't it? It really does help you become a far more discerning reader of news and political analysis.
Absolutely. And this really raises an important question, I think, for you, our listener, to consider. As you consume future news and analysis, how might paying closer attention to specific word choices, how might that empower you to read between the lines and challenge what's being presented, rather than just absorbing it at face value? What nuances might you uncover that perhaps others miss?
A truly thought-provoking question to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on the Economist Word Spotlight. We hope this conversation helps you continue exploring the world of words and ideas with even greater insight. We'll catch you next time.